Hey everyone, welcome to Virtual Veg Fest Live, our Thursday edition. Very happy for you to join us. And remember, if you have any questions or comments when we're live, feel free to write them in the little box and we'll definitely respond to them. Let's say thank you to Plant Based Network for being our partner in Virtual Veg Fest and also our Pass the Buck campaign for October. October is almost over, so it's really important that if you're going to donate to The Cows Come Home, that you please do it soon, because for every dollar that you donate, you'll be entered to win a prize pack from Hodo Foods, which is cool. So, and not a bad thing, but you'd be helping Cows Come Home, which is the most important part because they had a fire and they lost their baler and they really need to get another one so that they can get their own hay and not have to buy it because they can't afford that for all the cows. And of course, I was there, so it's a pretty awesome place and a great, incredible experience for you to go hang out with a herd of cows. So that alone is a reason to donate. And Randy is the sweetest person in the whole planet, so that's another reason. And let's see, if you like Virtual Veg Fest on Instagram, on Facebook, you'll be entered to win a prize pack from Follow Your Heart or Gain, Sun Warrior, and Crafters Organics, because those awesome companies have donated prize packs monthly to us to give to you. So just go like us. It's as simple as that. So Toni Okamoto is here today, and she's written a new book with a friend who has the Instagram handle vegan. I thought it was a typo, but her co-author actually has that handle. How cool is that? That's pretty awesome. And I'm pretty excited because we're going to talk about plant-based on a budget. We're going to talk about food. This week is food. It's all about plant-based food this week with the cooking demo on the weekend and Toni here now. So I'm going to bring her on so she can tell you more about her. Hey Toni.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. It's California cold here, so it's like 70 and I'm like, freezing over here.
And that's so funny because I think it's 70 something here. I'm in North Carolina. Toni's in Sacramento, which is my other home. I've lived there. I lived there in California for 7 years. So we were talking, catching up about Sacramento before we went live because I was like, oh, and this, and oh, and the Sunflower Drive-In, and the food co-op. And I was like, I lived in Roseville and Rockland and the mountains. I mean, it's a really cool place to live. Hot. Really hot in the summer.
Yes, I know that other people, they believe that it's cold there. Actually, my husband is from Maryland, and
Oh.
I had never felt the cold. I had never experienced 3-degree weather, and it was not, my body could not handle it. That was miserable. But here it's getting cold, and it's in the evening it's in the 50s,
Mhm.
and I can't. It's too much for my California body.
That is actually kind of sweet. My heat actually, I bought a house in Roseville and my heat went out like right after I moved in, and it was in January. It was really cold and I had a gas fireplace, so like literally I had like a heater and I slept by the fireplace because it was cold. It was probably 30 something
Oh
in
yeah.
that it was like the coldest January the 7 years I lived in California, and I had no heat. They're like, oh, the part will come in a week. Oh, okay.
At least it was in the heat. My air conditioning went out in
Oh.
a heat wave here this year, and it took maybe 5 days to get it. And you really can't. You have to just go somewhere that has air conditioning because it's 112,
Yes.
113, and if you're in the house, so I had to take my dog and go hang out at my parents so that we both weren't miserable.
Yeah, no, I totally understand because in the summer it's an interesting place to live because you don't really have to look at the weather because it's like, oh, what's it going to be? Oh, it's going to be sunny blue skies. It's going to be sunny and blue skies again because it doesn't rain until winter, and then it typically climate change has changed things a little. It typically doesn't rain for like spring, summer, fall, and then it rains again, so everything's kind of brown. But the temperature goes like, oh, it's 99 at 7 in the morning.
Mm.
Oh, it's 90 at night at 7 p.m. Oh, that's awesome.
Well, fortunately, I live in Sacramento proper, and we're surrounded by 2 rivers. So in the
Yep.
evening, it's very common to have it cool down 30, 35 degrees because it's just the Delta breeze sweeps through and cools everything down. So a lot of people, including myself, have a whole house fan where at nighttime you can open the windows and blow all that hot heat out and bring in some of the fresh, cool air.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. I grew up with that whole house fan on Long Island in our house in New York, so I totally understand. It's that really loud noise. It's like
Mm-hmm.
it literally like sucks the air out of the house. So
Yep.
those of you who are watching, thank you so much for obliging us to talk about
Oh, yes.
heat and rain and weather and Sacramento. Because it has nothing to do with food, but it has to do with like where someone's from. So I mean that's important too because you are a true Californian. You were born and raised in Sacramento, and it's near and
Mm-hmm.
dear to my heart. So that's why I keep talking about it because I really enjoyed living. I love the trails and the walking and by the river, and not the traffic to get over the bridges, but because when you're surrounded by rivers in a city, you need bridges, and it there's no way around them. You have to go over bridges. So it's an interesting city to live in. But can you tell us more about you outside of that you live in Sacramento?
Okay. What do you want to know? Do you want to know about my
Everything.
childhood? Do you want to know about how I became vegetarian and then vegan, or how I started plant-based on a budget? What do you want to know?
I think you start with, as you have in your About Me on your website, plantbasedonabudget.com. So everyone knows, I'll put that in the comments. And again, remember, everyone, you can ask comments or you can have comments or questions. We'll definitely respond to them as we go through and just put them in a little box. But yeah, because your About Me goes back to your childhood and it kind of stems into how you became who you are and what you're doing. So I would say start from there.
Alrighty. Well, I was raised mostly by my grandparents, and they were retired. My grandpa was a retired truck driver, and my grandma had done odds and ends like cleaning houses and buildings and things like that. And my dad was very young when I was born. He was 19 and he immediately went to the Navy so that he could send home his checks for me. And so I got to live with my grandparents, and my grandma, she cooked all of our food from scratch. And my grandpa, he grew a lot of our food. So I did grow up at a young age appreciating food and understanding where it comes from, how it's grown, and how to use ingredients to from scratch to make a full, complete meal. But then when my dad came home from the military, I was 11 and I went to go live with him. And I totally lived the bachelor life with my dad. We ate canned chili on our hot dogs and top ramen and mac and cheese and frozen meals, and so it was a shift. And then from there I kind of took on that standard American diet, and I would say that lasted until I was about 16 years old when I went to high school and I was a track runner. There was a Taco Bell right across the street from my school, and I would eat it up every day with my friends. We'd go there, hang out, eat Taco Bell. Then I'd come back to track practice, run as fast as I could, and get sick to my stomach. And I didn't ever make that connection why I was getting sick. And I only thought of food as something to make me full and to taste good, never about how it would impact my body or make me feel or fuel me. So my coach said, "Well, what are you eating?" I gave him a rundown, and he suggested knock the Taco Bell off every day and further stop eating red meat. So I stopped eating red meat. My family thought I was a complete hippie, radical leftist vegetarian. They were like, "How did this happen to us?" And uh, that was tough in my culture. It's a way to show your love. It's a way to, like, food sharing is just such
Yeah.
an important part. So when I'm rejecting my mom's food, she's like, what? uh, anyway, fast forward a little bit. I moved out when I finished high school and became a vegetarianish. I didn't know what that meant. I like had beef broth in my soup, but it was a vegetable soup.
Right.
And so I was vegetarianish, learned about plant-based eating and veganism in my community college when I was 20 and became vegan from there.
Oh, wow. What high school did you go to?
I went to Kennedy.
Okay. Which city is that in? Is it in Sacramento?
In Sacramento. It's in
Okay.
South Sacramento.
Oh, okay, okay. South Sac. All right. And then community college, was it local?
I went to Sacramento City College.
Okay, all right. And cool thing, another little tip about California, going to college, not expensive.
Especially if you're very poor, which I was. I moved out and I didn't have financial support from anybody, so I was able to qualify for free schooling in
Right.
community college. So you can get your classes paid for and your books.
Yes. Right. I remember being there when I was there. It was like 20 something dollars a credit to go to like a community college.
Yep.
You know, I mean, very, very reasonable. Like, thank you, California, the most progressive state in the union. So I totally hear that. But going back to you, yeah, no, I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say my community college experience was really what propelled me on this journey. I had this ethics professor named Beth Forrester, and it's an intro to ethics class where 1/3 of her class is animal ethics. And she takes you all about the dilemma of eating animals. And as part of her extra credit, she offers people to go to the veg club on campus. And it was there where I made a support system. I learned what good vegan food tasted like. And I also explored uh, the animal ethics portion of vegan eating with them. They had done a field trip to the local sanctuary, which I ended up working at right after. So I ended up in my early 20s deciding I want to be a level 10 vegan now. Like I quit my life. I went and worked at a sanctuary in Grass Valley, and I loved my experience of working with animals full time.
Was that at Animal Place?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they've been on.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Who was on?
Um. Oh my
That's
gosh.
okay. I don't want to put you on the spot. It's okay. Anyway, I love them all. They're so nice.
Yes. 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 Oh gosh. Oh, I should know
Was it
this. Like,
Kelsey?
yes. Thank
Okay.
you. I was
No
like,
problem.
I had an L name in
Kelsey's
my head for
favorite.
some reason. Yeah, no, Kelsey was on because they had a summit and the Plant Based Network was part of that. We sponsored it, so we brought them on to talk about it over the 4 weeks or the previous and while it was happening. So it was really cool, and
That's awesome.
they're amazing.
Yes. So when I worked for Animal Place, I worked it up in Grass Valley, and I was commuting. It was a far drive, it's
Yeah.
an hour and a half each way from where I live, and I thought I wasn't an animal person. I thought before I started, I was like, nah, I love animals. I love animals not being tortured and not suffering, but I don't need to have them. I don't need to have animal companions. I don't need that. And then I went to work at Animal Place and really became a different person. I bonded very strongly with some cows, specifically a cow named Stanley, who is the perfect Angus steer. He's still living and still perfect. And then another Angus cow named Mortimer.
Oh, that's awesome. That is like really awesome. I just spent like I said, I went to Cows Come Home in Tennessee, and went into the herd of cows and like yeah, it was incredible. I mean, they're gentle giants, right? I mean, they're just beautiful, beautiful creatures.
I learned, yeah, and I learned about the personality differences and how each breed, just like I don't know if anyone who's watching has lived with dogs or cats, but sometimes people say this color cat has this kind of attitude, or this breed of dog is really compatible with me because they're calm and gentle, and that's how it was learning about cows. I love Angus cows. They're really chill. I'm chill, and we would just really bond together. And there's this one, as I mentioned, Stanley. He was a little baby when he came,
Oh.
and we were both in kind of a tough place in life. I was really just struggling with a lot of hardship, and I'd had my heart broken, and I was untrusting, and he had lost his mama. He escaped from a farm where he was destined to be slaughtered, and we were both just kind of wanting to be by ourselves. So I'd go out in the pasture every day, and he'd be all the way over there, and I'd be over here. And every day we'd get a little bit closer. And then one day he was laying on my lap. And it took a lot of time and patience and not forcing anything. It's not what I intended to happen, but his trust and him rebuilding his confidence and becoming an independent steer just inspired me to be more trusting again, and also be more confident and independent.
That's incredible. You learn from one another. That is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is a great story.
It was
Thank you
really
for sharing
special.
that. I'm really glad this came up. Like really glad.
Yeah.
No, I mean, so your foundation, I mean, for obviously this is your foundation for starting plant based on a budget.
Well, that's very important, but I would say the really true foundation is my relationship with my family.
Okay.
I have experienced a lot of suffering, and they have experienced a lot of suffering because of diet related health issues. And my aunt had multiple amputations and died from type 2 diabetes. My grandpa, who was a father figure to me, he had a triple bypass surgery, and there were complications, and he died. And I had a 40-year-old uncle who had a heart attack. And it's just very sad. It's a sad thing. And when I was especially more vocal and upfront with my opinions about how everyone should be plant-based, I got some pushback about how it's really expensive and like not accessible. And so the activist that I really wanted everyone to be plant-based. I said, okay, I got you. Let me compile all of our family's recipes, put them on plantbasedonabudget.com, and that's really the genesis of Plant-Based on a Budget. It was that, and then moving on to activism full time, working for Animal Place and then vegan outreach. I just heard so often from people who were like, yeah, but it's too expensive. So the part that I didn't mention of my college experience was that I was living with two other people in a bedroom. I had a bicycle. I worked as a part-time tutor and a part-time nanny, and I didn't have a lot of money when I became plant-based. So I was really stretched financially. And so it was firsthand experience that I was sharing of what I had learned about being on a budget and being vegan.
Wow. I mean, hearing what you have experienced, I mean, I feel for you. I mean, I really do because I get it. I get it and I don't get it, right? Because I mean, I understand what privilege I have growing up on Long Island, right? And the family that I grew up in, and giving up red meat at 15. Oh, really? Franny. So going vegetarian, no, actually giving red meat up at 15 and having a family that was like, you're out of your mind. That's not going to last, right? And then going vegetarian at 19, didn't like vegetables. Like potatoes and carrots and onions and peas and iceberg lettuce. That was my vegetables. Went vegetarian, 19, and then moving to North Carolina after living like with in California and New York. North Carolina is where I went vegan, of all the states in the South. This is where I did it. So I hear you. And getting to eat and being able to eat on a budget. I know Ellen Jaffe Jones. She's in a similar realm of eating vegan on $4 a day. So she's a very good friend of mine. So you guys have a similar thing going on, because you have something eating like a budget of like $25 for the week, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, definitely share more about that, because it's important. People. I've been in the classroom as a humane educator, so they always say it's too expensive, and it's like, well, how much is a bag of beans? Like, not organic beans, just a bag of beans. It's like $1. And how much is a bag of rice? Again, it's like $1. That's at least 4 meals if you cook them together. And then I say throw a jar of salsa in there for flavor, and you're still not at a very expensive meal, and a very nutritious and healthful meal as well, full of fiber, full of protein, full of flavor, and you've got a very simple but inexpensive, healthy meal that you can serve, and you can eat for yourself or you can share with others. And you didn't spend a lot. I mean, you spent what, $3.50 for 4 meals, so $25 for a week. You can totally do that. So please share more about that.
So when I started plant-based on a budget, I had all these recipes up and people liked it, but they didn't know how to have multiple meals strung together without having to go buy a refrigerator full of groceries. Because if you're not used to cooking from scratch, you haven't invested in spices, you haven't invested in stocking your pantry. And so people would say, I tried getting 4 recipes off your website for the week, and it was expensive. So I decided to create a meal plan where we could buy one protein that would stretch to different meals, so that you're not having to buy lentils, beans, split peas for all these different meals. We're going to say, okay, we got lentils as your protein. We're going to make lentil tacos. We're going to make a lentil soup. We're going to do a stir fry and throw some lentils in there, and show you how to invest in that $1 bag of protein, whatever it is. It's we'll say lentils, and use that throughout the week. And it was a challenge for me to learn how to really stretch my dollar and to make sure that I'm using 100% of the produce that I was buying, so that I'm not contributing to food waste, and so that I'm not buying something that only needed to be used in one recipe. So to use my brain in that way was a challenge, and I can understand how people are overwhelmed by that process. But I created these meal plans on Plant-Based on a Budget. I had some friends create some meal plans. I went on to create higher quality meal plans as well. So it can be done. It averages at about $1.20 per meal. And I have eaten it many times. I've done that meal plan living in different places. So I've done it on the East Coast. I know someone who's done it from Whole Foods using only organic when available. And she went from spending $100 a week to $40 a week. So it's not the $25, but if that's what you really want to eat organic and only from Whole Foods, it'll still save you a lot of money.
That's a great idea. Yeah, actually, you might have influenced what I'm going to make for dinner. So, which is what a lot of times these talks do. I was like, I have lentils. I'd love to make lentil tacos. That actually sounds delicious and easy. And I've got chickpeas already made, so like, I can combine both proteins because they're already. I mean, I could if an army showed up at my door, I could feed them. I'm one of those households, so like no joke, and we'd still have food left over. I'm not a hoarder, but I like to buy in bulk.
Were you
So
one of the people who, during the beginning of the pandemic, you're like, I don't even need to go to the grocery store because I've got like 50 cans of beans already and
I
10
actually
pounds of dried staples?
I actually went the dried route immediately because I didn't have a lot
Okay.
of rice, and it was some things were harder to find. So like rice and beans, I went the dried route because of the Instant Pot, and I was like, it makes more sense to just make these as we need them when things are going crazy. But we didn't have to buy any toilet paper at all. I was like, we have enough toilet paper to get us through like 2021, and I
I,
already
I
had it.
I feel the same. A couple things. I don't like to go to Costco.
Okay.
It's just a little bit of an overwhelming experience. So I usually go and buy a lot so that I don't have to go back for 6 months. And I feel so thankful, grateful to be able to be in the position to do that now. For a long time, as I mentioned, I lived below the poverty line and I really could only afford what I did, what I needed that moment. But at this point, now that I'm married, we have no kids, I don't want to go to the store. So I have my house stocked.
Right. It sounds like we could, yeah, you and I both could feed and healthily feed
Yeah. Mhm.
amazing, delicious food to pretty much anyone who walks in. If we let them in, because I won't even let them in because of COVID. So it's like, I'll feed you on the deck. If I'll even feed you at all now. But one of the side effects of COVID, a positive one for me, is I do more cooking. I'm not as busy, sadly, because of COVID, but we're doing more whole foods plant based,
Nice.
which is incredible because the health effects have been overwhelmingly positive.
And you
So
mentioned that you have an Instant Pot, which is my number one favorite, most used tool in the kitchen. And it really has dramatically changed the way I eat. I cook so much. I cook more meals from scratch now than ever before because I can do a big giant pot of beans so quickly and make quinoa in 5 minutes and brown rice in 20 minutes. These staples become so much easier for me to not have to baby them on the stove for an hour or 5 hours for beans.
right, is that the beans? If you soak even less time, it's like sometimes I'll start a pot on the Instant Pot while I'm doing this. I'll just like start the chickpeas, throw them in there, put the baking soda in because just when you do chickpeas, it's supposed to be baking soda, not soaked, pre-soaked. 37 minutes, not self-release. Let it release on its own. And then when I'm done, I'm like, oh look, chickpeas. And there's so much better. Just so everyone knows, we've talked about this before on here. So much better than canned chickpeas, and I buy organic raw ones, and they're not expensive. What I get them for like $1.40 something a pound, right? So I buy in bulk from a buyer's club. It goes along with what we're talking about, but so easy. And now the dogs get them. The dogs get chickpeas in their food every day. We're eating the chickpeas. My housemate was like, "Oh, I'll just make these for you." So he puts them in his food, and it's delicious. It's easy, and when you're doing something else, you're not really thinking about the fact that it's like, "Oh, this is gonna take an hour." With coming to pressure and then the 37 minutes and then the coming down from the pressure, it's like an hour. But not when you're live. It's just in the background. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so rice too. I mean, that's coming up. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna make some rice. And I think this lentil idea would be, and then how would you cook the lentils? Because I'm like in my head, I'm just thinking like what spices and what I would do with them. So what would you do with the lentils?
I the way I like to do it is I saute some onion and garlic first, And if you are the type to saute your seasonings, you can also saute your seasonings with your onion and garlic. And you can go two routes. If you have no interest in blending spices and trying to make the correct spice blend, you can buy the taco seasoning from the store, and I would use like half of the taco packet, and there's like 50 cents. And then I would add my lentils with water or vegetable broth. Vegetable broth gives it a little bit of a nicer taste, and then you put your lid on them, cook them to your desired consistency. This varies. Some people like their lentils to be more mushy, and some people still want to see them in their lentil form. I like them somewhere in the middle, and if I want them to be mushy, I want to mash to my consistency, not cook until mushy. So it is a lot of personal preference in there, but that's generally how I like to make them.
Oh, that's awesome. No, I mean that's easy enough. I'm a not follow recipe, but if I do follow a recipe, I changed it person, and I don't measure. So what you said is perfect for me.
Yeah.
And just so you know, I used one of your recipes in our newsletter this week. I got permission from Heather, but I
Oh, nice.
used the spicy jalapeno, like the sweet jalapeno tempeh that was on your
Cool.
website.
Yeah.
I put that into our newsletter. So if you get our newsletter, you have this recipe from Toni in there because it was easy. It would look delicious, and it's versatile because I don't have jalapenos in the house, but I can use red and yellow peppers if I wanted to and not have spice, but just go along with that sweet, instead of the kick part. I can use like a spicy condiment pepper, like not condiment, like spice.
You said peppers. Do you grow peppers?
No, I just always
Oh,
have like
okay, got it.
in bulk. I buy the sweet little like red, yellow, and orange peppers, the small ones, because I like to
Nice.
put them into a salad or cut them up to saute them or something, and like mostly eating them raw.
Are
So
you a spicy person?
nope,
No. Okay.
I grow out of it.
Got it.
You get older and suddenly like you get indigestion. So you're like, all right, no more. I sorry to say that, but it's some things happen when you get older, and you know, if you want more to know more about that, just catch me offline because there's a lot of things.
There's more where that cut came from.
Oh yeah, especially as women, a lot of things happen as you grow as you age. It's so funny. Yeah, so I mean that recipe, I mean it resonated with me because I was like, it's so easy, and you on the website it says you use it with pancakes. So I haven't done that yet, but I have tempeh, and I was like, oh, this would be delicious and so easy, like so easy.
I am a very similar cook to you, where I like to think of recipes as guides, and I often add my own flavors based on what I have, based on my personal preference. I do swaps so that I don't have to go buy kale if I already have spinach.
Yep.
And in both of my books, I have a little line. I'm going to show it to you. I have these lines that say
Oh, my
my tips,
tips.
so that the people who are using these recipes can really make them their own. That's what I want. I want people to learn how to cook and then use whatever we've created as a guide to create something perfect for you and your family.
Right, and just so you know, when you cook like us, the next time it doesn't taste the same because we don't measure.
Oh,
It's totally up to you out there how you choose it. Because I have friends that are like, I have to follow a recipe and everything has to be measured perfectly. Well, the positive about that is next time you make it, it'll taste the same.
yeah.
It's like, this tastes so good. It won't taste this way next time. I
I
don't
have
even.
made some of the best soups of my life, and then I can't remember what I put in there.
It's a curse and a blessing because you're eating this is delicious. This is great. You need to make this again. Maybe because you're just literally just pulling stuff out spice wise, a little bit of that. Oh, taste it. Oh, needs a little bit more of this, a little more of that, and then it's like, oh, this is great. All right, well, next time it'll be great in a different way. And there's nothing wrong with that. I would love for people when they're cooking to go more in that route, because then what you're eating is to your palate and what you enjoy. Because in a recipe, there might be stuff that you're like, it's not really my cup of tea for what I would, but it's in the recipe, so I've got to put it in there. Actually, no, you don't. And you have that in your book, which is awesome, because your tips is like, well, cross this out. Don't like celery root. I'm going to put just a ton more garlic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so let's talk about the books. I
All
think that's
right.
important, because you have a new one.
I do. Yes. I'll show it to you.
Yep.
This is the Friendly Vegan Cookbook.
Yeah, no, look, I like the cover. And you guys look
And
so happy.
I co-authored it with Michelle Kane, as you mentioned earlier. Michelle and I have known each other for a while now, but we've been working together very closely for about 5 years. And I am really grateful. I actually met her while I was working at Animal Place. And I love this. I love our coming together story, because she is so committed to helping animals. It's her whole life's work. She, at the time, was working, I think she was working at PETA at the time when I met her. But she had since, when I decided I wanted to be her friend, she started working for herself on her website, World of Vegan. And I reached out to her and I said, hey, Michelle, I was wondering if you'd like to go to get some vegan, like get a nice vegan meal. I can drive up to Oakland where she was living, and hope to hear from you soon. And she wrote back and she said, that's so nice of you. Thank you. Unfortunately, I'm really busy working on World of Vegan. I left my job. This is everything I have. I want to focus all of my attention, and so I'm no longer being social. And so I was like, okay, new idea. How about we create content together for World of Vegan? And so then the first time we met, we filmed 12 YouTube videos that are all about vegan eating. And that was the first time we ever really hung out. And from there, we've kind of made it this thing that we do together whenever we're working. We create vegan content. Whenever we're hanging out, we create vegan content.
That's incredible. I would love to have her on, just so you know. I mean,
All
that
right.
would be. Please hook me up with her. She sounds amazing.
I will definitely connect you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so I mean, so the book came together. Obviously, this is your history of,
Yeah.
and now you kind of just went,
All right.
let's do a cookbook together.
We worked on a bunch of projects together. We have a podcast called the Plant Powered People Podcast. We had done a bunch of stuff, and it's funny too, because all along the way I've been like, Michelle, I think we should do this thing, and she's like, I don't know, like that's just one more thing. And then I brought up the book. I was like, we need to write a book together, and she's like, it's a 2-year project. And finally we decided to do it, and she and I have spent hundreds of hours working on this thing. We wanted to create something that would be really useful for someone who eats, especially with non-vegetarians, because we both have that kind of family where we want to give them the best, to introduce them to something that is familiar and kind of comforting, because that's what we have to constantly consider when we're feeding our families. Her family, not vegetarian, my family, not vegetarian. So we took our family's recipes, veganized them, perfected them. We worked with about 100 recipe testers to make them really perfect and make sure that the instructions were easy. We worked with a photographer named Zorro to make sure that every recipe has photos. And do you have a copy of our book?
I don't.
Oh my God. I will send you one. I will remedy that after this, immediately after this. But
Thank you.
I'll just look through it then. Every recipe, sorry, every
Pop-Tarts, cinnamon rolls,
recipe has
granola. Yeah. Oh, the
every
pictures look
recipe
great.
has a photo, and that was also really important to us because we both learned how to cook from cookbooks. There weren't as many vegan bloggers when we became plant-based many moons ago. There was VegWeb, but even then you didn't see photos. So it was just not as easy to get inspired without a photo. And as soon as photos became a thing in cookbooks, we were like, this is great. And we wanted those. So that was important. Make sure the food is presented beautifully and is attractive enough to inspire you. Then the last thing was infusing our own approach, which is to be very friendly. Not only are we friendly with each other and kind to ourselves about our whole plant-based journey, and I'll clarify that in a sec because that's confusing. But our approach is to encourage people to eat more plant-based and to bring them along with the best resources, a kind approach, welcoming of anyone anywhere who wants to choose more plant-based into their diets. And I know that for myself, this is where the clarification is coming in. I did not become plant-based overnight. I shared my experience. I faced a lot of obstacles. I didn't have money. My family wasn't on board. I had never had ingredients that are so common in plant-based eating. So I had never had kale. I had never had brown rice. I had never had quinoa. I didn't have butternut squash. I never heard of these. A lot of them were so new to me. The types of cuisines that I'm now eating, Ethiopian, Vietnamese, I never had that. And so I do understand where people are coming from, and I try to be friendly to them and their obstacles in the way that I wanted for myself in my own journey. And I messed up a bunch. I said I was vegetarianish. I ate things all the time. I remember the first time I was like, I'm going to be vegan. I went to Trader Joe's and I bought these corn dogs that were vegetarian, and I got home and I was like, dang it, there's egg. And so I just didn't know. So being kind and just saying, it's okay, get back up, choose plant-based the next meal is something that we find to be really powerful. And after trying a lot of different approaches in our past, this is the one that we feel the most comfortable with and the most confident about and have seen the best interest in.
That's fantastic. No, you're right. Everyone, I always say, I respond to a lot of people on Plant Based Network and all my social, and there are people that could really come down on people who are starting their journey, but we're all in different places, and that's okay, right? And we have to meet people where they're at, and not make them further along than they're comfortable with being, because that makes them go put their hand up and say, no. This is where I'm at now. And if you accept them for that, you'd be amazed at how much faster they'll move along, because you lead by example, not by pressure. Right? Mm-hmm. Not by condemnation of you're not. How could you do that? How could you have eaten those corn dogs? I mean, social media wise, it would have happened. But
I know it. Michelle and I worked with a gentleman on a project called 7 Days. He was a man who he's 24, lived in the Chico area. Do you know where that is? Mm-hmm. He lived close to Chico in a very small town, and we shared his journey of eating plant-based in 7 days to see what health differences he would experience. And he was really vulnerable and raw, had never even considered plant-based before we reached out to him he responded to our Craigslist ad. And his family was skeptical. He was afraid to tell them. He was eating breakfast in his room by himself. And anyway, he really fell in love with the plant-based living, and he filmed himself talking to people, like his coworkers. He worked at Ace Hardware store. His coworkers like, why are you doing that? Meat is so good. And he's filming them. Okay, this is all to say he's documenting his journey on social media. We're bringing a lot of attention to him, and some people who commented on him, he was eating Jello in one of his photos, and they were like, "You're not vegan. You're not this. Like, I can't believe that you would like learn all of this and still have Jello." But he didn't know that Jello had gelatin, right. And he had only been plant-based for 2 weeks by this point. Right. And so I was just like, oh gosh, people. And he like shut his social media down. He was like, I don't want to do this. I didn't realize I was going to be signing up for people to criticize me like this. I didn't honestly know that gelatin, I don't even know what that is. Okay. And so it just makes me want to share the importance of being friendly and kind, and continuing to foster the interest in plant-based living and eating vegan lifestyle. It's just not helpful to tear someone down, especially if you don't. No, it's just not helpful.
It's not. There's a much better way to explain to someone, and it doesn't even have to be publicly in a comment. You can easily just reach out to the person privately and say, just so you know, gelatin was a vegan Jello. There are vegan Jellos. So to make that assumption, you don't know, right? But to say, do you know? Because I do events, and our rules for the food go as far to you can't use white sugar. Mm-hmm. And I have a lot of vendors that I ask, what kind of sugar do you use? And it's a really weird question to ask, like, what kind of sugar? And they're like, I use sugar. I was like, is it organic? Because as soon as you put organic in front of it, I know that it's vegan. But sometimes they're like, I don't know. And they'll be like, I use Domino sugar. And I was like, well, that's not vegan. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I said, well, sugar naturally, and for everyone who's watching, sugar naturally is not bright white. It becomes bright white because they take bone char, typically from cows, and they smash the sugar and they make it bright white. Why? For some reason, Americans like to have things that are shiny. Like orange juice gets this color from bugs. You can go look at that when you choose to. There's a lot of foods that we eat that become that really shiny color because of bugs and animal parts, and sugar is one of those. So we kind of said at our events in our vendor agreement that you can't use that. So when you come to our events and you get desserts or foods, you know that it's truly vegan. But you can go even further. Now, gelatin is from pig's hoofs. It's an animal-based product, unless you find a vegan-based gelatin which wouldn't have any animal products in it. Because there's a lot of people who are new on this journey that don't know these things until they talk to someone who, has an event or just kind of says, well, do you know that's not, oh, there you go. Do you know that's not vegan? And they're like, and then they have the reaction, and not take a hammer and smash you over the head with it, violent type word reaction, because not everybody knows. Not everybody knows everything about veganism. At Nashville Veg Fest, I put a vendor on the spot. Somebody came who got bit by one of those meat ticks. So she's completely allergic to anything that has animal in it. And she was not vegan before this. She had to turn over her, and she's more sensitive to stuff than, like, send her to the hospital sensitive. And I saw the day, it was a 2-day event. This was Sunday. So on Saturday, I saw some of the bread that the vendors were using. And I didn't say anything because it's not in my vendor agreement to go to the enzymes that are in bread that are not vegan. But there's a lot of bread that's on the cheaper side. It's actually not vegan. You can also look that up. We put a vendor on the spot, asked to see the bread. The bread wasn't vegan. Vendor was like, what? And I was like, look, I know this. People who are concerned about this will ask. This is like next level for veganism, for what people want to choose to put into their bodies. Will we add that to our vendor agreement? quite possibly, so that no one has to worry about anything not being like. I mean, I don't want to call that nitpicking. The fact of the matter is the bread is not vegan, and it's at the event, and it's supposed to be a vegan event, and that woman would have gotten very sick if she ate that bread. So, but she knows to ask. She knows to ask, and that's part of the responsibility when you have an allergy or a sickness or whatever that can impact you, is that you ask and you look, and then you can go to the organizer and say, do you know? And it's like, yes, in that case I did know, but it's not in my vendor agreement to regulate the bread that's used at the event. And that goes to, and then you go to the vendor side, business wise, it goes to their bottom line. It'll affect how much they charge you, because now they have to go to a superior type product, which costs more money, and serve it on that. And so it's a lot of factors that go into all these decisions that happen at an event. But it's, bottom line is, it's not vegan. So we have Randy. Oh, hey, Randy's here. Let's see. Hi, Randy. I didn't realize Randy just commented. So important to know how to help someone on this journey. And Randy is the person I said is the sweetest person on the planet from Cows Come Home. So I'm so glad she's here. I don't think she heard your story about Animal Place and the cows. So I mean, you have to watch it from the beginning, Randy. There's a cute story about Animal Place and some Angus cows. So, but yeah, no, that comes up a lot in this. Comes up a lot in this about don't be a keyboard warrior. Meet people where they are. It's okay for someone to be like Meatless Mondays or just doing vegan dinners or wherever they're at, because if we show them support and we show them that we're positive and we'll help them along on this journey, that they will, we're not going to put them down for making mistakes. We're going to build them up and help them, do whatever they have to do. Like, you ate veggie soup with beef broth in it. It happens, right? Sometimes you don't even know. But I mean, I went vegetarian. I went to a diner on Long Island. I went vegetarian. I went to a diner. I ordered lobster bisque. Took a sip of the lobster bisque and went, what am I doing? I don't eat this anymore. And just pushed it aside. I forgot. Your habits are habits. I literally just completely forgot that I decided to be vegetarian. And I don't like lobster. I just like the cream and the fat in the soup. It could have been made with no lobster, just been a cream fat soup, and I would be like, this is delicious. So you're right. We do that. It doesn't mean that you've canceled out everything you've done prior to that and you have to restart your clock. It just means that we're fallible. We're people. We do crap that nobody's perfect, and that's okay.
Yeah, that is exactly it.
Yeah, no, Randy's gonna watch from the beginning, so she can, hear that story, because I think she'll love that. I know she'll love that. It's all good. You should totally check out Cows Come Home. They're absolutely amazing. And if you get to visit, look, if you come over to this side of the country, first of all, and you decide to be in Eastern Tennessee, you've got to go to Cows Come Home and Pig Preserve too.
All right, I'll do that.
Yeah, and here too. So I'd love to meet you in person. But right. So I mean, you've got more than that book too, right?
Yes, I also have my Based on a Budget cookbook. My copies are so dirty. Sorry. There's like spoon splattered all over them. Based on a Budget was the one I wrote by myself before the Friendly Vegan Cookbook. And it really was my baby. It is the closest thing I imagine I'll ever feel to someone birthing a child of their own. I opened the box and I was like, I made you. You're so beautiful and perfect. I love you. And so I felt that way about my book, and I still do. I love it. I look at it and I'm like, oh, you're so beautiful. But it really is everything I've learned along the way until that point when I wrote it. And like the Friendly Vegan Cookbook, it has photos throughout. It has places to write, and the concept again is this is the basic recipe, I have optional additions if you have extra money or if you have these ingredients on hand and you want to make it a more elaborate meal, or feel free to use whatever you have on hand. And that's kind of how I set it up so that people can feel empowered to make these recipes their own. Um, and I like that part of cooking.
Oh, you are so much fun. You are just a compassionate being.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. No, it's been special for me to get to know you and and learn more about you and the books and why you wrote them and why these cookbooks exist and how you're helping people and that you are aligned with how we meet people like in the common ground so that they can flourish, because that's what you want, right? I mean, it's like, well, come over to this whole food plant-based thing, like, come on. And clearly you care about people's health too, so it's like, well, come on, and the environment and all that, and and you just are doing everything that you can to engage people to come onto this path and completely dismantling it's expensive because it's not. Where can I get the friendly bean? Where can I get the friendly bean?
The Friendly Vegan Cookbook.
Oh, there we go.
I think you're saying the Friendly Vegan Cookbook.
I think so.
If you are, then you can get it at friendlyvegancookbook.com, and you can see a list of the vendors who have it, and also anywhere you like to buy your books.
Okay. No, that's awesome. I'll put that up there. It's probably easier just to if you know the book that you want, it's easy to go and get there. The Friendly Vegan, yeah. It's Friendly Bean, Friendly Vegan.
I do like Friendly Beans.
I think that could be a next book.
The sequel.
Yeah,
I'm into that.
There you go, Randy. Other things have come out of this. Oh, it's got a heart too. Yeah, other things have come out of these talks where, we have a shirt that says "Bring Your Own Kale," BYOK, because it came out of like a talk with Jason on here. He was like, because he brought his own kale salad to an event and helped. It was a volunteer, and I was like, "Hey, he's like, yeah, bring your own kale," and I was like, "Ah, shirt." Nice. So we actually have that shirt.
I appreciate that. During the pandemic, I stopped doing anything outside of my house, and I started growing a little garden. And now I'm really into gardening. So I started with like 8 plants that were seedlings, and now I have a million in this little space. I'm like constantly trying to figure out. I share my backyard with a dog who goes out during the day to sunbathe or just enjoy the outdoors, and he zooms around. So I have to share my space with him, or else I would take over all of the backyard with food. Anyway, point of this is to say I have grown my kale from seeds, and that is also really special too, to be like, oh, I saw you when you were just a little tiny seed, and now you've been feeding us for months. So that's really cool. I've never grown anything from seed before, and that's a special experience with your food.
It is. And you talk to the seeds, you talk to them as they grow, and you're like, because they say that plants can react to being spoken to kindly, that they grow better from positive words. I mean, that's you can also look that up. I've read that and seen that. So yes, there's that positive energy that helps them grow and flourish. And if you're negative towards plants or greens, that they like start dying. So there's something. Maybe we are going hippie, but that's that's okay.
I do have very positive vibes when I'm out there, because I'm so grateful to have a little space to grow food, to have turned my $1.99 packet into something that has been feeding us for months. And so I do put my positive vibes out in the garden every day.
No, that's awesome. I think next year it's something that I don't have a green thumb, but I love the fact that things can just grow. I have to keep cats and dogs away from these things, and then outside I'd have to keep possums and raccoons and birds
Ugh,
and squirrels away from
the
these things, or I
They
just grow
are
them for
really
them.
tearing up my garden.
I know you have snails because I know in Sacramento I love the snails, but neighbor hated the snails.
They demolish my leafy greens. Not my kale, but I've lost a lot, and I'm doing a chemical-free garden, so I'm just
Yeah.
like I'm trying everything. I just planted some marigolds out there. I heard snails don't like marigolds, so I'll let you know. Keep you
But I mean, at the
posted.
same time, it's kind of nice that you're feeding the snails too. I have like this affinity since I was a little kid for snails, so I
You're
I
very
love them.
you're very generous. They ate my whole um, all of my cruciferous vegetables. They demolished. I had to pull them out. It was so sad.
I'm sorry, but the snails are really happy.
That they are. Yes, they are.
So Tony, I want to say like thank you so much for joining us today and being a part of this. And I, next time I'm in Sacramento, when I get back out there, I'd love to meet up. Or of course, if you're on this side, anywhere somewhat close. And when I have events again, we'd love to have you come and be a
I would
part of
love that.
them. 'Cause that'd
I
be
would love that. I will, if you're ever here for Shabbat dinner, I make fantastic challah all the time. Like, we do a dinner every Friday. So if you ever are here for that, that would be awesome.
I'm gluten free, so I would
Oh, no.
absolutely
Okay.
love. I mean, being Jewish. And did you convert?
I didn't, but my new family is very into the cultural practices that
Yep.
I fasted for Yom Kippur. I celebrate. We've been doing a lot of virtual um, dinners and sharing the experiences that we'd usually do in person. And so it's a big part of my family culture.
That's awesome. No, it's absolutely you're more Jewish than I am at this point doing Shabbat dinners on Friday. So, do you light the candles and everything? That's
I learned the prayer. I
excellent.
don't. I mean, I can kind of remember what it means in English, but I did. I've heard it a lot of times, so I now just it's like part of my memory.
I know it's Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, and then you just go, on from
Yeah.
there. So yeah, no, that's amazing. That's like really cool. So I mean, I would love to. I mean, believe me, I would love to be able to eat the challah bread and
Maybe if I do, give me advance notice. I'm sure there is a recipe I can veganize gluten free. So
thank you.
I will look into how do you say gluten free-anizing? What is that?
You just make it gluten free.
Gluten-free.
Yeah, it's not easy, but I mean the things have gotten much better with being able to make things gluten free and vegan because the flours that exist, like the Bob's 1-to-1 and the Measure to Measure, are incredible because you can actually use them as a cup of this for a cup of glutinous flour, and it's yeah, it's made a huge difference when it comes to baking or anything. It makes a huge difference that you need glutinous flour for it. And I'm gluten intolerant, so I'm yeah, it's just one of those things that you just live with. And
Hmm.
that's probably one of the things I miss the most would be something like that, like challah bread. Like, oh gosh, that would be incredible. But you have to make that determination. Do you feel like being sick today? It won't kill me, but it might give me some nasty headache, and I yeah, that is it worth it? And I gauge on that. And then of course, like the longer I go without any gluten in me, the more likely it wouldn't affect me at all. But if I start adding it back in, it'll come a point where I'll just start getting really sick, and I go, it's it you just some things you just go. Some people are lactose intolerant, but they still eat ice cream, and they're like, I just get sick. Well, not worth it.
Hmm.
You have to make those decisions, and when you're vegan, then you're gluten free, and then I'm giving up oil. I'm like doing like a whole bunch of things. You just you just get used to it, and you just kind of keep morphing. So, But I mean, thank you. I mean, thank you once again for joining us and being a
Thank
part of
you.
this. And your books, I wish you the most mazel and success,
Thank you.
because
Thank
I can
you.
say that. And I haven't finished out like that ever. So, I mean, that's incredible. I mean, you're lovely.
Thank you. And it's so nice to be connected. If you are ever here in sunny Sacramento, please keep in touch and also send you a book.
Yeah, you almost made it. Almost made it. Oh,
All
stop,
right.
Tony. Well, thank you again,
Thank
and
you.
everyone. I'm gonna go off by myself and close this out. Bye, Tony. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Well, that was awesome, and of course the dogs are like right here. So, which mask am I gonna choose today? I got this nifty new mask from Plant Based Network, which is really cool. So, when you're wearing a mask, please wear it over your nose and under your chin, and obviously like this. Don't expose your nose. It doesn't work. Not here. Don't put it around your chin. Don't put it on your forehead. Just wear your mask correctly so that you protect others and yourself from the virus, especially now. Oh, geez. Especially now when it's raging. The virus is raging out there. So please take care of yourselves and please wear a mask and help limit the exposure so that you can stay safe and vote. Don't mail your votes anymore. Like, it's too late. Go vote in person or go hand in your ballot in person. Don't rely on the post office to get it in. There's too much stuff going on Supreme Court wise. There's too much stuff going on with states and, of course, the president fighting the ballots being counted. So, election day is Tuesday in the United States. You need to vote. And in North Carolina, you can still register to vote up until, I think, Halloween. And then that's it. That's all you got. And I don't know, in other states, you may be able to register to vote now or you might not be able to. But if you are registered to vote, go exercise your right. It's incredibly important. And we've already broken records with how many people are voting early. So that's incredible. I voted from my desk and mailed it with 2 stamps on it, and they received it because we have a voting tracking thing by text. You can do it. And on Tuesday, if you're going to vote in person, mask up, bring hand sanitizer when you leave, clean your hands before you get into your car. As you get into your car, clean your steering wheel, do whatever you have to do. Go home, wash your hands, and just make sure you wear a mask and take care of those poll workers because not an easy job this year to, work the polls. So other than that, we will see you on Saturday. I'm not sure of the time on Saturday just yet because it's probably going to be earlier because Chef Claire is in Dubai and 4 p.m. our time is midnight her time. So I'm waiting to hear back as to what time will work for her. So it'll be earlier in the day. And I will post that as soon as I know. So we'll see you on Saturday at some time, maybe noon, maybe 1 p.m. I'm not sure. But Chef Claire will be on to do a cooking demo. And I'm pretty excited about that. And also it's Halloween. So happy Halloween and please celebrate safely. And I hope everyone who's been impacted by this latest tropical storm and hurricane, we hope that you're all safe. We'll see you soon. Bye.